Detective Jack Thorne had once been known for sharp instincts and dedication to justice, but that was before the Caldwell case. It was a brutal, high-profile murder that had consumed his life for over a year. Jack had chased every lead, questioned countless suspects, but the case had gone cold, and his career, along with his reputation, unraveled. Now years later, Jack was a shadow of his former self, hiding behind bottles and bar counters, nursing wounds no one else could see. His once respected career was tarnished, and he felt like a failure. The Caldwell case haunted him, its unsolved mystery weighing on him every day. He tried to forget, to drown out the guilt, but nothing ever eased the pain of his unfinished work. Then, one rainy afternoon, an envelope arrived at his door. He nearly tossed it aside, assuming it was another bill, but something about the handwritten address caught his eye. Inside was a photograph, blurry but familiar, a piece of evidence that had gone missing from the Caldwell case. His pulse quickened. He hadn't seen this photograph in years. It showed the victim, Emily Caldwell, on the night she was murdered, standing with an unknown figure in the background. Jack had always believed that this person was key to the case, but the photograph had disappeared, leaving him with nothing but dead ends. Attached to the photo was a note: "It's time to finish what you started." Jack felt a surge of anger, shame, and adrenaline all at once. He didn't know who had sent it, but he felt something stir within him, a sliver of the detective he once was. Gripping the photo tightly, he made a decision. He would reopen the Caldwell case, not just for Emily, but for himself. This was his chance to redeem everything he lost, to prove he was still capable of finding the truth. This was his chance to redeem everything he lost, to prove he was still capable of finding the truth. Determined to pursue the new lead, Jack went back to his old precinct. It had been years since he'd walked those halls, and he could feel the stares of his former colleagues, their eyes filled with a mix of pity and disdain. His old desk was occupied by someone new, a reminder of the life he had lost, but Jack forced himself to focus. He had a mission. He met with Detective Riley, his former partner, who moved on when Jack fell apart. Riley was skeptical at first, reluctant to reopen a case that had been closed for so long. "You sure you're ready for this, Jack?" Riley asked, eyeing him warily. "We all know what happened last time." Jack clenched his jaw, feeling the weight of his past failures pressing down on him. "I have to try, Riley. This is my last chance to make things right." Reluctantly, Riley agreed to help him, digging up the case files and sharing everything they still had on the Caldwell murder. Jack pored over the documents, reviewing old witness statements, forensic reports, and every scrap of information he had once committed to memory. The photograph felt like a lifeline, a single thread connecting him to the truth. As he worked, he found himself confronting painful memories. The hours he spent on dead-end leads, the moments he had come so close to a breakthrough, only to have it slip through his fingers. He remembered the promises he made to Emily's grieving family and the crushing guilt of letting him down. But this time, it was different. Jack felt a fire he hadn't felt in years. He wasn't just chasing shadows, he was fighting for redemption. And even as doubts crept in, he pushed them aside, determined to give everything he had left to solving this case that had haunted him for so long. With Riley's support, Jack began tracking down old witnesses, hoping to find any clue that might lead to a new perspective. One by one, he spoke with people who had known Emily or had been connected to her in some way. Most of them had nothing new to offer, only fading memories and worn-out answers he'd heard 1,000 times. But then he met with Marcus Lane, a former suspect who had known Emily through mutual friends. Marcus had been cleared in the initial investigation, but something about his nervous energy struck Jack as different this time. When Jack showed him the photograph, Marcus paused. "I never saw this photo before," Marcus stammered, his gaze flicking between Jack and the image. That person in the background. "I know who that is." Jack's heart raced. "Tell me, Marcus." Marcus hesitated, visibly uncomfortable. "His name is Ryan Bale. He was Emily's old boyfriend. They split up a few weeks before she was killed." Jack recalled the name. Ryan Bale had been considered, but without any solid connection, he'd been dismissed early on. Jack had thought him irrelevant, another loose end that hadn't gone anywhere. But now, with the photo, a new layer of the case unfolded. If Ryan was in that photograph, it might have been Emily on the night she died. Fueled by this new lead, Jack began to research Ryan's background, determined to find any detail he missed. He spent hours reviewing everything he could find online, piecing together a profile that cast a shadow over the man's past. As he delved deeper, he uncovered connections he hadn't seen before: financial troubles, violent outbursts, and an obsessive streak that matched the kind of person who might harm someone like Emily. Jack felt a renewed sense of purpose, his instincts sharpening. The case wasn't cold anymore. It was closer than ever to the truth, but he knew that facing it would force him to confront the darkest parts of his past and the mistakes that had led him here. Armed with the new findings, Jack tracked down Ryan Bale's current address. The man had gone off the radar after Emily's death, living a quiet life in a small town nearby. Jack felt a mix of nerves and excitement as he approached Ryan's door, hoping the confrontation would bring him closer to justice for Emily. Ryan opened the door, surprised and visibly weary. Jack introduced himself, carefully watching Ryan's reaction. "I'm here about Emily Caldwell," he said, his tone steady but firm. Ryan's face palled, and his posture shifted defensively. Jack pressed on, recounting details about Emily, reminding Ryan of their shared history. Ryan's discomfort grew as Jack presented the photograph, the image of him and Emily that night, a shadow of the past brought into the present. Ryan's hand shook as he looked at it, his eyes darting around, avoiding Jack's gaze. "Where were you that night, Ryan?" Jack demanded, his voice growing harsher. Ryan stammered, unable to offer a solid alibi. But with each question, he unraveled further, his guilt seeping through the cracks of his carefully maintained facade. Jack felt his adrenaline surge. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the vindication of years of guilt and shame. But just as he was about to press further, Ryan broke down, admitting to an argument with Emily on the night of her death, swearing he hadn't harmed her. He claimed that he had left her alive and never saw her again. Jack felt a pang of frustration and doubt. Was Ryan telling the truth, or was this another lie? With a heavy heart, Jack knew he needed more than just a confession. He needed proof. He'd come this far, and he wasn't going to let this case slip away again. Determined to finally close the case, Jack returned to the precinct, piecing together all the evidence he collected. The confrontation with Ryan weighed on him, but he knew he couldn't let doubt cloud his judgment. As he reviewed the case file one last time, he noticed something he'd overlooked. A small detail in the forensic report, a trace of evidence linking the crime scene to Marcus. Finally putting together that Marcus was jealous of Ryan for being with Emily, he was able to find a motive and piece of clothing Marcus was wearing when he confronted him earlier the night she was killed. With renewed determination, Jack presented his findings to the police. The case was reopened, and within days, further forensic analysis confirmed Marcus's involvement. Jack felt a surge of relief as the truth came to light. Emily's family will finally have closure, and he had fulfilled the promise he made to himself all those years ago. The media covered the breakthrough, hailing Jack as the hero who had solved the unsolvable case. But for Jack, it was a personal victory, a chance to rebuild his life, a life he had lost. The emptiness he had carried for years was replaced with a sense of purpose. After the case closed, Jack made a promise to himself. He would never let another case slip through his fingers. His mistakes had cost him dearly, but he had found his way back, not just as a detective, but as a man determined to make a difference. As he walked out the precinct, the sun shining in his face, Jack felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of peace. He had redeemed himself, and he was finally ready to face whatever lay ahead, with his head held high.